I'm Richard Gearhart, intellectual property attorney at Gearhart Law.
I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, not an attorney. I work at Gearhart Law doing the marketing, and I have my own startup.
Welcome to Passage to Profit, everybody, the show that's all about entrepreneurism, small business, and the intellectual property that helps them flourish. Tonight, we have a very special guest and someone, a type of specialty that we haven't had on the show before. It's Kim Woods, and she is an intuitive business strategist, which is different than a business coach. So I'm very anxious to hear the difference between a business coach and an intuitive business strategist.
And because that is such a new topic for us, we only have one other presenter today, Mike Indursky, Hear Me Raw. And I'm really excited to hear about his skin products because I really think he's on to something here from
Great.
personal experience.
But before we get to our distinguished guests, it's time for IP in the news. And what is our IP in the news today?
Well, it's about an argument over patents in the psychedelic medicines industry.
Right. And I think, I mean, this sounds kind of funny, but this really is the direction that a lot of new medicines are going into. It's very, very interesting from a scientific standpoint.
Right. And there are people that are mad because other people got there first and patented a lot of like the starting ingredients, I guess.
Right.
And so they're like, well, we can't just use whatever we want to make whatever we want because these other people got patents.
How dare they?
How dare they get paid for what they're doing?
Right. Well, there's a couple of companies that are involved, and they're kind of famous in the psychedelic drug world. And we got this article from the Psychedelic Spotlight. So there's a whole industry that's building up around this now. The first company is Compass Pathways, and they created a new psychedelic molecule and got it patented. And people got upset about that, which as a patent person, I really don't understand why they would be upset by that. Some groups challenged the patent and it held up at the USPTO. But because they created a new molecule and something new and innovative, they were able to protect it with a patent, right?
Right. So if it was just something you extracted from a mushroom, I don't know, could you patent that? Could you patent the process?
Yeah, you could patent the process. So if you do a new type of extraction, you could, anything that is made by humans or influenced by humans can in general be patented if it hadn't been patented in the past.
But if you were just to eat a mushroom, you couldn't just patent the mushroom because that's occurring in nature, right?
Right. And if it's found naturally in nature, you can't patent it. But to go on with the story a little bit, there was another company called MindMed, and they combined LSD and another drug called MDMA. And apparently these drugs are really well known in the psychedelic world. I'm not sure what MDMA is, but I certainly have heard of LSD. Apparently they're unhappy because they got a patent on the combination of those two things. And so I guess, I guess that's kind of the debate, right? What kind of role should patents play in this industry?
What in the world are we going to do without new psychedelic drugs?
See things less psychedelically.
Anyway, I think it's time for Richard's Roundtable.
Right, Richard's Roundtable. And I want to go to our Mike Indursky first because I have a feeling that he has some comments on this topic. So welcome to the show, Mike.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be on this, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you.
Right. So what are your thoughts about this? First of all, I just have this intuitive sense. Speaking of intuition, I have this intuitive sense that you may know what MDMA is. So maybe you could explain that to our audience.
Well, I'm no expert, but it's Molly, and it's a form of ecstasy. And people have been mixing Molly and mushrooms and LSD and LSD and Molly because it has a very, very different effect than just doing one by itself. So Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I don't understand how anyone can get IP on any of these combinations of existing, materials personally.
Yeah. Well, see, I mean, and that's so the way the patent laws work is if you can come up with a surprising result. That is, if you have a particular combination and a particular uh, quantity or a particular type of delivery, then that could potentially be patentable. But from what you're telling me, it seems like people have been doing this for a long time. And in general, that should block this kind of patent unless there's something really unique about what they did. So,
It's like patenting peanut butter and jelly.
right, right. And so yeah, I mean, it's definitely you'd have to like actually read the patent and see what
Yeah, I
they
mean, it
said.
could be they did the process. I mean, because processes are different than the actual end chemicals, right?
Right.
So, I mean, if you did a new kind of peanut butter, I don't know, you might be able to patent it if you added some chemicals. Like some of those
Add
things.
some ecstasy to your peanut butter. I wonder how many people have done that, and maybe we could.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm addicted to peanut butter as it is. That could be really dangerous.
But Mike really brings up a good point though. When it comes to patents, the devil's really in the details. And so
Right.
these patents are long, tricky documents with lots of different little changes in them. And so sometimes even small changes in what was going on can be protectable, but that wouldn't stop somebody from combining ecstasy and LSD in the way it's been done in the past. So you can't, you can
Right.
only protect the improvement. You can't protect what's already gone behind you. And so people would still be able to combine ecstasy and LSD in the patent. So,
Okay. Well,
yeah.
So, okay, what does Kim have to say about this?
I don't really know what to say about this. I think it's really interesting if you could come up with a new way to make peanut butter and jelly, an interesting and, let's say, ecstatic experience, maybe.
I have to say, it kind of already is for me.
What's that? The peanut butter and jelly?
Peanut butter and cherry jam. I feel like I'm in heaven. when I'm
Right.
eating
But
that.
there was like this product out for a while that was peanut butter and jelly in the same jar.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
gross.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
It
and
was.
I never tried it because I'm not a
just
big
looked
peanut butter
gross.
and jelly fan,
Yeah.
as you well know. But it was out there for a while. So, and then the question is as well, should somebody be able to patent that, right? And that's really borderline because it's not so innovative to put them in the same jar. But maybe when you're making them, putting them in the same jar is harder than you think.
Well, I
right?
think that the storage would be more difficult, and you'd probably have to put in more preservatives, right?
It doesn't work because how many different SKUs of jelly and peanut butter do you have to have a product line, right?
I have no
Because there's so many different types of jelly, right?
Okay, on that note, we should ask what Kenya has to say.
All right.
So what I was saying is that I just wanted to have clarification because I was always under the impression that you could not trademark or get an IP for a recipe, right? And when it comes to the food space, but you can create a molecule and you can get that trademark. So am I wrong in that? Can
Yes,
trademark
you
a recipe?
are. I don't know who started that rumor, but I hear that from food people all the time that, well, you can't get a patent on a recipe. That's ridiculous. Of course you can. You have to decide whether you want to get a patent on a recipe, whether it's worth the money. But big food companies patent their recipes all the time. And there's nothing that's different about a recipe than any other formula. And you can, patent makeup, you can patent cosmetics, anything that has chemicals, including food, is patentable as long as it hasn't been done by somebody else, right? And that's always the tricky part with a recipe, because it's like the same thing with the LSD and the ecstasy. There's been a lot of people out there using this in the past. All of those instances where they combined those ingredients are prior art and should block you from getting a patent. But it's very hard to get concrete proof of that and get it to the patent office. So if you patent a recipe, you always take a risk that if you make your cherry pie, somebody in 20 years ago in Oregon made it the same way as you did, and that would defeat your patent if it were ever challenged.
You mean the guy with the ecstasy lab in the backwoods in Oregon isn't going to challenge a patent?
I'm not even sure the guy in Oregon would know what a patent is, right? I mean, he's spending too much time having fun.
Yes. Anyway, well, I think it's an interesting area because it does seem like psychedelics are moving more into the realm of drugs for treatment if they're combined the right way and used the right way. And doctors are starting to see their potential more now.
Right. It's definitely becoming a mainstream thing. And
I would not take these unless I was under a doctor's supervision, personally.
Right. My fear is always, well, what happens to your brain after you take it? I mean, all the horror stories we heard from as kids.
Well, when we were growing up, they were really popular, and you're like, oh, he dove off a building because he was so high on
Did you see that movie where the girl was smoking pot and she ate a hot dog and flipped out over it?
No.
We saw that every year in high school. And she started, it was something like that. She was like screaming at this hot dog.
No, but it is, I mean, it's kind of scary to think of what you put in your body or on your body is in skincare, which we're going to get to later in the show. So
Absolutely.
I mean, like, there are naturally occurring chemicals which aren't all great for you either. Right. And then there's human-made chemicals, which some are helpful, some are not. So anyway,
I think we're talking about psychedelic drugs way too much on this program, and our audience is going to start getting suspicious about our past, maybe more about your past. Because
why my past?
Well, you were the one who found the article.
I just went to Google and typed in news and then typed in patents, and this came up.
All right. Do we have friends in the industry? That's what I want to know. Anyway,
not that industry. Anyway, I'm not going to.
We're not going to go there. Anyway, it's time for our guest du jour. It's Kim Woods, and she is an intuitive business strategist, and maybe she uses some of these methods that we're talking about here, ecstasy and LSD, to get a more intuitive view.
You will have to ask her.
I bet she denies it.
I
anyway,
have not asked
Kim,
her that question.
I didn't actually ask it. I sort of backdoored it. So anyway, Kim, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us. And well, what is an intuitive business strategist? Let's start with that question.
Well, Richard and Elizabeth, thank you for having me. And no to any of the psychedelics. I'll just answer that. No backdoor question at all. So an intuitive business strategist is different than a business coach in that what we do, and I say we because I have a team of intuitive leaders that work with me, we use our intuition. And we use our intuition and help you develop yours so that you can know yourself, like yourself, trust yourself better, so that you can make more money and that you can run your business more efficiently. You can make better decisions. You can attract your soulmate clients. It's really the crux of success.
Who doesn't want to make more money?
I've got too much.
But no, you are so right, because there are times Richard will say, and he's got really good intuition. He'll say, I think this happened because of this. And I'll be like, no. And he'll say, I think this person's going to do this. I'll be like, no. And then sure enough, it turns out exactly the way he thought it was going to. Like this most recent situation I won't bring up, but
yeah, I guess that's just, I'm very attentive. And so I collect a lot of information, and I put it's one of my strengths as a professional is like sort of being able to see around corners sometimes, but is that intuition, or is that just paying attention and putting all the pieces together?
Well, the reality is intuition is part observation.
Right.
You want to be attentive. You want to be observant. Think about this. We're in a Zoom room right now, right? But when we were working, more in the brick and mortar space, or maybe pre-COVID, we would be with people in a room. We would be with them in an office. And there's a lot of inclinations that we get. There's a lot of nonverbal cues that we could pick up on. those are intuitive nudges that you can read if you're being observant. If you're self-aware and you're confident and you feel like you're aligned and in the right space, you're more observant of your surroundings. Versus if you're not, and you're constantly like questioning yourself and you're doubting and you're feeling inadequate or not confident at all, then you're so much having a mental tape going through your head at the same time that you're participating in whatever it is that you're engaged with. So you're not present.
That's really a neat observation, and I haven't heard anyone put it quite that way before. I mean, I will say that while the remote workplace has advantages, absolutely, you do miss out on a lot of the nonverbal cues and all the other types of communication that the team puts out, and I think it can be a handicap sometimes.
Yeah, well, I struggled with something recently, and I'm glad to hear you talk about this and say this, because I was trying to choose a person to do my website.
Mhm.
And there were some problems with the contract, which he fixed after Richard pointed them out. But there were a lot of people telling me, you need to keep looking. This isn't necessarily the right guy. And in my gut, I knew he was the right guy. And they were like, you've got to clarify the contract. This is blah, blah, blah. And there was a lot of opposition to this. And people thought I hadn't done my homework. I'd been interviewing people for a year, and many of them were website and business coaches for my own business. And I just knew. And so I did finally sign the contract with him because my gut felt like this was the right guy.
Yeah. And your gut instinct, and I'm doing the air quotes for those of you just listening and not seeing the video, is that your gut is the gateway to your intuition. Your gut instinct is the first inkling, if you will, that you get, and it's very visceral. And so there is a little bit of a misnomer when we say gut instinct, because a lot of people don't feel it in their gut. They might feel a change in temperature in their body, or they might feel that the hair on the back of their neck, or a lot of people feel it in their jawline. So knowing what your instinct is trying to tell you is really important, because that will help you lean into your intuition more. But Elizabeth, you're exactly right. You went with your instinct. And I'm going to ask a question I don't know the answer to, but how is it working out?
Well, so far we're just in discovery, but so far so good, because he really understands all the different pieces that need to go into it. And I don't think any other people got that, because I need the back end. I don't need the branding, and everybody else wanted to start with the branding.
Right.
And so I think he understands it's like an octopus. There's many tentacles. And I think he gets that. But I wanted to ask Kenya, because we started this show because of Kenya. It was her idea to do this show, and she approached us.
She gets all the blame.
So I want to ask Kenya, did you have a gut feel did you approach a bunch of different patent attorneys, or did you just think Richard would do this?
No, the answer to that is actually no. You're the only patent attorneys I had ever met. And what's interesting about that is we had met at another group of stations that I worked at, and we not lost touch, but we just kind of kept in touch over a period of, I think, like a year and a half. And then once I got to iHeart, we had reconnected, and I felt like the timing was just right. So I think there's divine inspiration, and I think there's timing, and those two, put together in combination are pretty powerful.
So we have to take a commercial break, but we'll be right back with more Passage to Profit and Kim Woods right after this. Welcome back, everybody. It's Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. Our special guest is Kim Woods, Intuitive Business Strategist. And so for our listeners who just joined us, Kim, maybe you can summarize Kenya's last comment and take it from there.
Yeah, we were talking about intuition. What Kenya talked about with divine inspiration and timing is part of intuition as well. So, we talked about observation, we talked about experience, maybe not overtly, but definitely as a subcontext. And we talked about instinct. So the intuition is a multifaceted vehicle for you. Everybody is intuitive. Yes, I just said that. Everybody on the planet is intuitive. It's whether they say yes to it or not. So for all your listeners out there, you're intuitive. You might be very observant or imaginative, or you might believe in the divine and in the inspiration. You might have faith in religion. You might be using, more from that instinctive place for that body inkling or body nudges, or you might be utilizing intuition as more of that traditional term, which is the knowing something without knowing exactly why you know it. That's really the definition of intuition.
So can we take the intuition piece a little bit further? What part of this is part of our physical being? Does intuition go into maybe a different, more like spiritual realm? Can it be part of that? Or is it just more biologically based?
The answer is yes. It's all of it. It is absolutely all of it. And some of us have an inkling more for that body sensory nudges, or those inklings, what I talked about with instinct, and others have more of that spiritual connection. And they're both very effective.
So I'm very curious. Can you give some examples of people who have actually used their spiritual self to help make better decisions or act in some way that has been positive for them?
Okay, Wayne Dyer, Jack Canfield, Gabby Bernstein. I mean, I'm naming people that are probably well known in the public space. They've mainstreamed Deepak Chopra, like very much mainstreamed using the spiritual connection. Oprah Winfrey has a beautiful story. If you want me to repeat it, it's wonderful. Everybody loves it. It's about
Yeah, tell us Oprah's story.
Okay, I had the privilege of being able to see her. Granted, I was probably with a few thousand other people, but I was in the room and I was really excited to be there. And she told a story about how she wakes up every single morning and she asks herself the question, how she can be of service today. And she's been doing that for decades. And she said that what it's done for her is it's opened up a lot of connection and obviously a lot of abundance and a lot of recognition in her life. And she said that when she was first in Chicago and on her first TV show, her boss lived in the suburbs and she had a yard. And when Oprah went there, she said she walked into the yard and it had 6 trees and she counted them. And she said, when I become successful, when I make it big, I'm going to have 6 trees in my yard. And then she gave it over to the divine. She gave it over to the spirit. And she then tells a story that a few years ago, she was, in her new, well, probably not new now, house in California. And she hired a tree counter, of which there are tree counters apparently. And this gentleman went out, counted the trees in her backyard, and she has 3,667 trees.
Wow.
And she says, if it were up to me, I would have 6. But because it was up to spirit or divine, she said, I have over 3,000.
Wow. That's a great story.
That is a great story. And I think that kind of reflects on the amount of abundance that Oprah has received, in her career. It's a multiple of what she originally probably wanted.
Well, she really channeled into the divine or the universe or intuition or whatever you call it. But I'm kind of interested. You were a business consultant at Oracle. How did you get into the business you're doing now?
Yes. I mean, that's a great question, Elizabeth. And it was because of divine inspiration. What happened was my son was born. He was my first child. And as any person knows, any parent knows, your life is going to change with your first child. However, it changed more than I had assumed because he had a lot of issues. He had health issues, he had developmental issues, and the doctors were telling me he wouldn't be able to throw and catch a ball, he wouldn't have a normal social life, he wouldn't have a sense of humor, and it was just devastating. I thought, we're not accepting this quality of life. So I pursued Western medicine practices, of course, but I combined them with Eastern methodologies as well. And within that, it changed my life forever. It changed me because I was pursuing things that I hadn't really ever pursued in my life. And I tapped into my intuition and I did it through know, like, trust, which I'll explain in a few moments. But I had to know myself enough to defy the doctor's predictions. I had to like myself enough in order to be able to combine and weave many different strategies together. And I had to trust myself for 8 long years before we saw transformative results. But he's a junior in college. He's 21. Does have a great sense of humor, has a wonderful social life, and is completely on the, typical spectrum.
Congratulations.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great story.
And,
Kenya?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts or questions?
Well, I'm just curious, when it goes back to the business coaching piece, how do you know, what are some signs that you need a business coach?
Yeah. Okay. I love this. Practical question. Here we go. Brass tacks. So when you need a business coach, most people come to us when they've reached a point they've either reached a point of frustration and they're not scaling their business, they're not growing it, they don't really know why, they want to augment their team or hire more people and they just don't know quite what to do and they're frustrated. Or they come to us because they're somewhat fascinated. Intuitive, what now? I mean, so I base things on astrology and the stars, and I do forecasting and all the things. And so they're a little bit fascinating. So what I say to people is when you're reaching a point where you're feeling as if you cannot continue your growth or expand in the way that you want to, and you're looking for support and you're looking for more opportunity, that's when you reach out to a business coach. If you're interested in that intuitive space and you want to make things easier for yourself and you want to have exponential growth, reach out to us.
That sounds great. So what did you say before? Like, trust, what were the three pillars of?
It's know, like, trust.
Know, like, trust. Okay.
Yeah, that's based on anybody in marketing and sales. It's been known for decades that your customers need to know, like, and trust you. That is true. That is definitely true. However, when you know, like, and trust yourself, it changes the entire dynamic. You're actually drawing clients to you and you're creating a synergies of alignment with opportunities in ways that you're not doing that outreach. It's coming to you. It's much easier.
So there must be a spectrum of people that you meet who sort of have that self-knowledge. And how do you help people move up the spectrum?
Yeah, so we have a whole intuition development piece of our work where, we've been doing this for decades, right? So I've been utilizing intuition for my whole life and came to know it when my son was born and really rely on it. And so people will come to us, and intuition is tricky. It's like whispering, it's nudges, it's just inklings. And until you get really confident with it, you're looking for somebody to help backstop it. You're looking for that validation. And so we provide that for people that are still doubting their intuition. But there's layers to it, as we talked about before. There's beautiful layers where, we say yes to ourselves and then we say but right after, because our minds come into the action, and our minds are not programmed for growth or potential or the unknown. Our minds they're not programmed for expansion. So anybody who wants to be on that growth trajectory, your mind is actually working against you. So you want to drop into your heart, your body, your intuition, your instinct.
Wow. I rely on Elizabeth for a lot. She knows me so well that she has better insight and intuition about me than I usually do about myself.
Although he doesn't always listen to me, but
yeah, I do. I mean, most of the time, like I took out the garbage this morning, like we agreed. So I listened to you. So, and I heard you on the garbage issue. But so if let's say somebody's in a spot where they're not ready for coaching yet, or they're an entrepreneur just starting out and they have to be very careful, and maybe not in a position to hire your company or a business coach, what are some of the things that you can tell them that they can work on independently so that they can help develop some of these skills?
Absolutely. So what we like to do, again, we take more action than say breathe or do yoga or meditate. Those things are very helpful. And if they're in your lane, go ahead and do them. But if they're not in your lane, what we ask people to do at the very first blush is notice about yourself when you say yes and then you say but. You say yes to something, oh, but I don't have any money, or it's not the right time, or my spouse or partner is not going to say yes to this too. Really become observant with that, because you want to start saying yes and. So that's just start observing that. So we talked about observation at the top of this. The other thing that you want to do is you want to ask yourself, like pressing this further, what am I willing to do and what am I not willing to do? So Elizabeth, you had the perfect example with that website designer. You were willing to take some quote unquote risk that seemed calculated because his contract wasn't really aligned at the outset, but you knew that you were willing to do that because you could clarify the contract issues because he was going to deal with the octopus on the back end. So that's a great example for that. And then the other thing is to ask more questions than to seek answers whenever you can. What else is possible? How does it get any easier? How does it get any better? Ask yourself those questions because you're opening up your mind. You're helping give your mind a little bit more space so that your intuition can come in and you can have more of a growth orientation. You can do that all independently.
Well, one thing Richard's trying to do lately, and you have to have some money to do this, is to get people to do all the mundane administrative type of tasks, like calling, I don't know, somebody to figure out how to get rid of a piece of garbage that's too big for the garbage men to take, like just stuff like that, right? He's
Mhm.
trying to offload all of that. So do you suggest that? I mean, I would think that would give you more time to really tap into your intuitive self if you could offload a lot of the stuff like that.
Absolutely. Working to your strengths is always a good idea, right? And doing things, what's the opportunity cost for you to be doing
Right.
all those mundane things? You're a moneymaker, Richard. You know that. So
Thank
if you
you.
want to keep pursuing that, right, then figuring out what to fit in the garbage space might not be the best use of your time. And obviously I answered that from a business perspective.
But I do want to say real quickly here, like people are listening to talk about people are listening to talk about intuition and divine intervention, but you have helped companies build multiple 7-figure brick and mortar businesses and using this technique, right? Helping people tap into their intuition. So what is the big change? Like, how does it work?
Well, so basically what you're doing is exactly what you do with your website designer. You stop listening to other people, because the people that we get advice from aren't always the experts. We seek advice from people who are close to us, and that might not be their gig, right? Like if you were to ask other people in the website space, they may have had a little bit more, insightful answers for you. But when you're following your intuition, you're really going through the validation internally versus externally, you have a much better, guru, if you will, or an advisor next to you that has your own interests, your best interests at heart.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's excellent advice. And what you're talking about to a large degree is self-talk, right? I mean, or self-listening, or a
Mhm.
combination of talking and listening. But what the tape that plays through your head is dispositive of everything that you do, and who you become and how you react. And it's taken me years to learn to pay attention to that and really work on making sure that I have the best self-talk that I possibly can. Because too much of the time it was very negative. I would be very hard on myself. I would be unhappy with myself. I'd be unhappy with other people. And just trying to change that dynamic. It wasn't easy for me, but it was important and it made a big difference. So
And don't forget all the people trying to tell you how to run the law firm.
right. I'm always willing to listen, but at the end of the day, it's what you decide and what you do, because that's just how it works, unfortunately. So
Absolutely. And speaking of experience, I mean, I have over 25 years of C-suite experience. So I've been in every boardroom across the world. I've done all the things with business, and we bring that to the table too. So we can, based on you and your best interest, we design the model of the business that's going to serve you the most and the best.
And I think that's a very important piece.
Absolutely. So we have to break for another commercial. Awesome, fascinating discussion, Kim. We'll be right back after this message, and we're going to be talking with Mike Indursky about Hear Me Raw right after this. Well, that was just an amazing discussion with Kim, and it's really been a pleasure to be doing Passage to Profit today, because we really do have some outstanding guests. But before we get to Mr. Indursky and Hear Me Raw, we're going to go to Power Move. So Kenya, who is our power mover today?
Well, we actually have two power movers today, financial advisor Rashad Bilal and educator Troy Millings. They're the host of the Earn Your Leisure podcast, and they just created something really cool. It's called Invest Fest, and it's going to be happening in the next few weeks over the summer. And basically what it is, it's the first of its kind in-person experience to combine investing, entrepreneurship, pop culture, entertainment in a festival setting. So I thought that was like really, really clever. And what they're going to do is they're going to have a vendor marketplace for small businesses with live podcast stages and interviews from top entrepreneurs and celebrities. So far, they have Steve Harvey that's going to be present. They have Charlemagne the God, they have Rick Ross, they have Eric Thomas, the Wall Street Trapper, and a bunch of other financial and entrepreneur gurus who are going to be in the place. And I just thought that was a really clever
Okay.
and innovative idea.
Where and when is it? Can the public go?
The public can go. Tickets are on sale. You can go to investfest.com. And I was just looking on here. Oh, it's in 23 days, 4 hours and 8 minutes. So what date does that make it? Oh, here we go. August 5th through August 7th.
Is it in New York or is it?
It's in Atlanta.
It's in Atlanta. Oh,
It's in Atlanta, but it's going to be traveling. So they're doing it there first. And then as it grows, they're going to move it around. So they're anticipating about 11,000 or so people for this first round. And then they're just going to build it and grow it as it continues to scale. So excited for them.
Yeah,
like
that sounds
fun.
really like a
Steve-
great idea.
Steve Harvey and Charlemagne together. Oh my God, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
I mean, we watch Family Feud sometimes just because Steve Harvey is so hilarious.
He's a funny guy.
Oh my God.
And he has a few different platforms he's working on too now in that entrepreneur space. So it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, celebrity
Wow.
entrepreneurship is such a such a thing now.
I hope
Anybody who's a celebrity has a business almost, right?
Yeah, that is a power move. That is really cool. I hope it comes to New York because I want to go.
I'm sure it'll end up in New York at some point. And,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
no, that's a great find, Kenya, and thank you for bringing it to our attention. We look forward to learning more about it, and maybe we can snag some tickets or get involved some way. You never know. And so, Elizabeth, it's time for Fireside.
Yes. So for those of you who don't know, my startup is a video directory of small businesses. And there's a lot more to it that's a benefit for the businesses that come on the directory. And it will be going out to the public. I'm going to have to rebrand, I'm afraid, though. So I was calling it Fireside Directory, but the trademark office, USPTO trademark office, has suspended the mark because it says there's too many other marks that use the word fireside. And so I can't have it right now, but they won't say I can't have it. They're just saying we're going to sit on it. So I could just see this turning into a big ugly thing.
So you're in trademark limbo.
I'm in trademark limbo. So I'm early enough in the process. I think it's just going to be easier to just find a new trademark and find a new name, because I could be in battles for years over this with other people. And I just, you know what, if you're early and this is why you do the trademark search. It came up clear in the search, but the trademark office has other ideas. That's why you file your trademark early, because if you can't get it, then before you don't waste hundreds of thousands on branding for a name you can't use.
I mean, it's better to know now. And I think some of the names that you've come up with are just killer. So I almost, in a way, I almost think it's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I have a business coach, and I'm in a peer advisory board group, and they're like, yeah, we think Fireside's a little old fashioned. So maybe you should come up with something that's more modern. And, but I really have to brainstorm with the most creative person I know on the face of the earth, sitting right here, Kenya. So Kenya,
Kenya's smiling
find
right
some
now.
time for me.
For
I
our
am,
listeners,
and
she's smiling.
I
Yes.
appreciate that. And I've been noodling for you. So
Oh, thanks.
Yes, let it cogitate, and then you'll
Let the
cogitate and be
let
great.
the intuition kick in, right? This is an intuitive process.
This is an intuitive, cogitative process.
Right. So now we are on to our next presenter, Mike Indursky, and I really like what he has. So if you try to use makeup, but it affects you in a negative way, I think he's got the solution to that. I'm not going to talk too much about it. His company is Hear Me Raw. Welcome, Mike. Tell us all about what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I've for some reason been in this business, the beauty business, for about 30 years. I used to run Bliss, which we sold. I used to be at Burt's Bees. I was a CMO there. We sold that, and I just needed to do my own thing. And I was just frustrated. And I listened to a lot of women, and they were really frustrated that they don't know what to buy. They don't know what clean means. They don't know what natural means. They think packaging is overly ornate and wasteful. And, that's where the idea of Hear Me Raw came up. I mean, there's people really saying, I need to be heard. I don't want to be treated just as like a consumer, because I'm not a consumer, I'm a human being. And from my standpoint, what frustrated me was that after 30 years, we're still selling products with ingredients which should not go on your skin, in packaging which isn't sustainable, making claims we can't keep, with prices that are too high and products that we don't need. To put in perspective, there have been 73,000 products that have been found to have ingredients that can either be carcinogenic, co-carcinogens, or cause endocrine disruption, mess up your hormones. 73,000 products currently on the market found to have these ingredients. From a sustainability standpoint, every year, 100 billion pieces of packaging material wind up in landfills. It's only 8 billion people, but 100 billion pieces of packaging material. This is just in our industry. So what are we doing about this? And the truth is the big guys aren't doing anything about this. So there's always going to be some really obnoxious entrepreneur who says, you know what, screw it, I'm going to do it. And that's where Hear Me Rock came about.
So Mike, I want to ask you, so you're basically doing skincare. Is it makeup or is it what you wash your face with or moisturize? What kind of products do you have?
It's just 4 products. It's all skincare. So it's not makeup, it's not body care. It's we have one thing called the brightener, which is an anti-aging, if I can use that term, mask you put on for 10 or 15 minutes. It's filled with chlorophyll and spirulina and matcha green tea and lactic acid and phytic acid and bakuchiol, which is natural retinol. And it oxygenates the skin, it exfoliates the skin, it protects the skin, and you put it on. It's like an instant energy boost for your face. Your face comes to life. I use it every morning. I work out with it on, and then just wash it off at the end. There's a moisturizer called the Hydrator, and it uses prickly pear, which is cactus flower, because nothing retains water better than a cactus. And we use maqui berry from Argentina, Mexican poppy stem cells, which are high in polysaccharides, which are great to keep moisture and energy in. And it's got coconut water, watermelon oil, and cucumber. So these are really powerful, powerful ingredients. And when you look at what the synthetic brands use, like they'll use for their moisturizer, typically you look on the back of the label, PEG. And PEG is polyethylene glycol. And polyethylene glycol comes from crude oil. So you're putting crude oil on your body. And what you're doing is you're creating a barrier, a bad barrier, because it doesn't allow your body to function properly, right? It messes up your sebum production, which you need. It messes up everything. Prickly pear, which is cactus flower, is very different, right? It's not a coat of oil over your face. So when you look at the back of your label, you see PEG or you see petrolatum or mineral oil. In my opinion, these are not good for your skin.
Well,
And
I have to say, I have never been a person to wear any kind of skincare product, but the way Mike is describing this, I'm actually tempted to start giving it a shot just because it sounds like it feels so good.
Well, I feel like it's important for me personally. I find like I don't normally wear moisturizer. If I wear moisturizer or not, I'm sorry, not moisturizer. I don't normally wear foundation. I find that the days that I do, and I've tried different ones, it saps my energy. It like seals my face off or something. So my skin can't breathe. I'm really excited to try this. Do you have a foundation or are these mostly moisturizers? And
these are all,
toners?
They're either, right now, they're masks, cleansers, and moisturizers. Just really basic. You don't need 16-step routines. It's basic cleansing, basic moisturization, basic treatment. And all of our products, by the way, are refillable. And that's one of the big things. When you buy a jar, and I know we're on the radio, but when you buy a jar which looks like this, and here's one of my products, it's called the Clarifier. Look how pretty that is. This is a great oil control mask. You pop this out, you recycle the inside part, and then you buy a new refill. You put the refill inside. So you keep the jar, you keep the lid, and we save about 95% of the packaging that you typically have to buy. And all of ours is recyclable. And of course, it's refillable. Most stuff goes right into the landfill.
Yeah, and it's almost. I mean, you would know better than I would, but just based on what you said earlier, it's like a competition between the cosmetic companies to create packaging that's glitzy and glamorous and hopefully gets the eye of the consumer. But it's expensive and it's environmentally expensive for these kinds of and this kind of packaging, and it adds to the cost of the cosmetics. And I love your approach. I think that just makes so much sense.
So we need to get Kenya and Kim's comments in here.
I think so.
So Kenya, what do you think? Or Kim, what do you think? I see you unmuted, Kim.
Yeah, I think this is fabulous, right? So, I mean, I have a face, right? So I would, everybody has a face, right? So I would, in my body too, same thing, Elizabeth. I was like, ooh, or Richard, I was like, oh yeah, okay, wait a minute. And the color, I know we're on radio, but the color just is like eye candy. So I think this is wonderful.
Yeah.
If you know what the problem with most skincare is? It's white. And the right reason why it's a problem is it just means it's just overly synthetic and overly processed. My stuff it's the color of nature, but it's powerful. You know, nature doesn't mean crunching granola doesn't work. You know, it means that if you get the right ingredients and you formulate them correctly, you have some real powerful stuff. And the one thing I just want to add really quickly is, you know, as creatures from nature, our body only recognizes things from nature. We don't recognize synthetic ingredients, you know, whether we're ingesting it or putting it on our skin. So if you were to like put a piece of plastic in your body, it will come out right at the bottom. If you drink plastic, what's going to happen? It goes through your bloodstream, and then your body's either going to reject it, or your body is going to mutate from it, and that's what winds up happening. And that's why you have all these ingredients which are endocrine disruptors, because your body doesn't know what this ingredient is, and it just mutates around it, rather than, because what else are you going to do with it? It doesn't recognize what it is. So natural is just so important, and I just tell people to stay away from the synthetic stuff. Sorry,
The other thing it does is it sticks it in your fat cells, right? So it stores like toxins that it can't break down in your fat cells. That's not good either. But
no, that's not good for business.
So Kenya, what do you think?
Well, I think it's wonderful. I obviously have a million skincare things at home that I use, and I feel like my skin changes often and they don't work as good over a certain period of time. So what are your recommendations for like the evolution of one's personalized custom skincare? Because I feel like there's really no one size fits all, and skin does change pretty rapidly.
It changes over time. You know, you go from having oily skin to combination skin to normal skin to dry skin. It changes season to season. And you have to see what works best with your skin as your skin changes. Yeah, and there's a lot of myths about skincare. You know, when it, like right now, summertime, people said I need to keep washing my face. No, you don't want to keep washing your face. If you wash your face too much, you're going to be creating more and more sebum, which means you're going to have more and more oily skin. You want to wash your face twice a day, or after a big sweat. You don't want to use hot water. You want to use lukewarm water. You want to wash up. You don't want to use implements like washcloths or gloves or loofahs. That's the worst thing for your face. You want to use your fingers. Your fingers are your best tools ever. So it's really about adapting to the seasons and then seeing what your skin needs. You know, like we have this one moisturizer. It's called the Hydrator. And if you've got like oily skin, use a little bit. If you've got dry skin, use a lot of it. You know, you layer it. There's ways to personalize it for, you know, for your needs, but you don't need like 20, 15, 10 products. It's ridiculous.
Well, I have to say I'm amazed, because I never fully appreciated until this moment the universe of knowledge that is required to take care of a person's skin. You know, so this is fascinating that there's so much science behind it. I mean, how did you develop these products? I mean, how did you create them?
Well, it started off, I was inspired by my time at Burt's Bees, and I wanted to do something that was best for people and planet. That's where it started. What's best for people and planet? And I found a formulator, a young Indian woman who has some like Ayurvedic training, and really said, how do we source the best ingredients from around the world? Irish moss, Chinese ginseng, turmeric, Mexican poppy stem cells, things like that. And then make it here in the US, which is important, in a way that's great for the planet and best for your skin. And that's how we started. And if it's not the best product, I won't come out with it. And if it's not packaging which is sustainable, I won't come out with it. And we partner with 1% for the Planet and Leaping Bunny and Global Citizen, NAACP. So we do a lot of work with other organizations to help, you know, share the love, you know, and share the goodness.
I noticed on your website that you have, there's a I guess it's a blog post or a feature there about cruelty-free and what that means. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's so many, you know, the thing about marketing is, and I'm a marketing guy, is sometimes it's just a license to bullshit. And, you know, to me, cruelty-free, right? Like cruelty-free technically means they don't test on animals. So how do people get around it? They say they're cruelty-free in the United States, but they test in China. Okay, there's a lot of products which still to this day need to be animal tested in China, right? Like a lot of hair care products, they stopped doing, I think, a lot of the skincare products. So they'll get around it. So cruelty-free typically means not test on animals. It does not mean that your product is vegan. So you can be cruelty-free and not be vegan. So if you've got in tallow, which is boiled animal fat, gelatin, which is boiled animal hooves, keratin, which I mentioned, lanolin, which is sheared sheep, squalene coming from shark liver. There's so much stuff that comes from animals that are being put into our products. And to me, animals were not put on this planet to be put into our beauty products. You know, there's great coconut oil and watermelon oil and prickly pear. There's so many great natural plant-based ingredients. We don't need to kill animals to put in our beauty products. So yeah, so cruelty-free doesn't mean vegan, it should. Because to me, if you're shearing a sheep and squeezing its oil out to put into your moisturizer, I think that's pretty damn cruel, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. And even the testing, I mean, you know, if you're, you know, you could probably do a lot of harm to an animal in the early stages when you're testing them. You could probably harm
I
their
don't want
skin.
to talk about that, please. That's so gross.
Okay.
I hate animal testing, but I want to go back to caring about someone's skin. So Mike, you're a man in the cosmetics and beauty industry, and a lot of men need this. Like
she's looking at me for those who are not watching the tape.
Like especially the super hydration and, you know, the brightening, and people that are going to maybe be on TV or do other things or on YouTube all the time. I mean, your skin says a lot about you. It's like one of the first things people see is your skin. So you really do have to take care of your skin.
So Mike, I'm going to drag you into this. Do I look like I have bad skin?
From here, you look like you have great skin, but I'm in New York, you're in New Jersey right now. So
well, he's bright red. It might be the heat up here.
No, I got sunburn.
He got sunburn, which is so bad for your skin.
But it happens rarely. But
I'm gonna send you some stuff.
I am taking your comments seriously, and that, you know, maybe that is something that I should consider. You know, you know, so anyway, I'm always open to anything. I'm not especially vain, so for me, I don't kind of care that much how I look, but I don't want to be repulsive either, right? So
guys always take, you know, take comfort. Well, you know, we age gracefully, yeah, but you want to keep your skin firm and supple at the same time. By the way, interesting fact, you know the difference between men's skincare and women's skincare?
The price.
That's one. Fragrance is the other, and packaging is the third. Other than that, there's no difference. It's all nonsense.
Really?
What was the second one? I didn't catch it.
Fragrance.
Oh, fragrance.
And then the other
and packaging.
Packaging. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But there's no difference other than that.
Yeah, I do think everybody needs to take care of their skin, because if you think about it, like I hate to bring this up because I'm so over this, but let's just think about what we went through with COVID. You had to cover the openings on your face and not touch your face because your skin blocked it out for you. Yep. Right. So if somebody
blocked out the COVID.
Yeah, that's why you covered your mouth and nose. I mean, you didn't have to cover your whole face because your skin did that for you, right?
I guess I hadn't thought about it that way, but
think about it that way. So,
okay.
So you covered up the holes, right? because your skin took care. It was as a barrier to all the toxins from the outside world, right?
Yeah, of course.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Hey, can I share a personal story for a second?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So about a little over 2 months ago, I was attacked on the street in the East Village. Right. This is relevant to skincare, and I got hit from behind, beaten up. Never saw it. I was unconscious during it. And this was a picture of me about. Can you see that?
Oh yeah. Go to our YouTube channel, listeners, if you want to see that.
And
Oh
yeah,
my
he
So
has
it's
God.
very baggy eyes and
And
Yeah,
dark
bruised
it's really,
up.
circles.
it was really bad, and it's happening all over the city. So I was taking ibuprofen, but it occurred to me that one of our products, which is the clarifier, I'm not selling this, but I have to just tell you, it has zinc oxide, which heals the skin. It has French green clay, which is a natural antibacterial absorption agent. It has turmeric and it has sea kelp, which are great anti-inflammatories. And it has lavender, which softens the skin. I swear to God, in 3 days, using this like 3 times a day, my face shrank. And
Wow.
the puffiness just absorbed in. And you realize the power, if you have the right natural ingredients, the power of these ingredients is so incredible. And avocado oils in there also, that these things really work. So whether you want to get rid of, lines and wrinkles and firm your skin, moisturize your skin, there's great natural stuff out there. You just have to get it from the right people and
Well,
just stay away from the synthetic stuff.
Right. You said you're not selling it, but I hope you're selling it. So where are you selling it? How are you getting the word out about this? How are you getting sales?
It's been actually mostly word of mouth. We're on Amazon, of course. We sell D2C. We're just building. We're on Skin Store. Look fantastic. A bunch of other places, and now we're opening it. We're in the Marines. Believe it or not, talking about men's. We're in the Marines.
So tell us about that.
Yeah, there's a very big market in the armed services. They have their own stores, and they have discounts for all the people who are in the service and their spouses. And the Marines loved it, and probably because they put the green stuff on, look camouflage is my guess.
Kenya, do you have more thoughts or
I do.
comments?
The story you just told about how you were attacked. I mean, we kind of like glossed over that a little bit, but I just kind of want to bring it back to that experience. Like, first of all, that's so admirable. Like, you have such a good attitude about that. I don't think most people would. I mean, I would be traumatized, but I do think, like, have you ever thought of maybe using that in some of your marketing in terms of just the storyline, like maybe not it being so graphic, but like, I was very touched by that. And
Thank you.
it was a great testimonial.
Thank you. I did share it on TikTok, and I decided to start TikTok largely to share the story because it is happening all over the city. I'm a city kid. I'm from the Bronx, and I've actually faced worse. So I just think of this as a sports injury, but it is difficult, and I want to share people. Be careful. Don't have your headphones on. Don't look at your phones on. Always be. You have your wits about you. And at the same time, if you ever go through, like, I just want to share this nugget with you, and I want to make it as least self-serving as possible. It's really about, hey, everyone, wake up when you're out there,
Wow.
But thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Were you robbed? Is that what the purpose
No,
of the...
supposedly, no, it's random beatings. In fact, the New York Post had an article 2 days ago, same thing, 2 people hitting a guy on 72nd Street. There's signs all over the East Village. 2 people are, randomly trying to knock out people, typically men. And, for a guy who grew up in the Bronx, used to teach karate, used to box, I'm a ninja, I can protect myself. Well, you can't protect yourself. You get hit in the back of the head.
No.
So, but
Oh,
thank you.
wow.
The hospital was fantastic. Bellevue Hospital was fantastic. Went to the police and all that stuff, but it's another day in New York.
Yeah.
I lived through it. I can't raise this eyebrow just yet. This one's kind of stuck, but it'll come back over time.
Yeah. So Kim, did you have any other comments or questions? Wow.
I have so many comments and questions. I love the, first of all, your face looks amazing. How long ago was this?
It was a little bit over 2 months. It was like 2.5 months.
Amazing, right? No one can believe it. Like, honestly, you have to go to the YouTube channel and see Mike's face, right?
See Mike's face.
See Mike's face. The before
See Mike
and after.
run.
And the other thing, so can someone go to your website and order? Are you doing it? Are you distributing and you're having other retail outlets sell it?
We sell on our website,
Okay.
inventor.com. Yeah. And and we also we do a lot of stuff on live stream selling, like Talk Shop Live, Shops, Amazon Live. That's been a lot of fun, telling our story. And it's tough, it's tough as a startup. I mean, despite having 30 years in the business and knowing everybody, when you're doing a startup, that allows doors to open. It doesn't mean you land the deal. At the end of the day, there's a million people launching skincare, and what are you going to do that's different from everyone else? And I've always believed, having run small business and huge businesses, that as a small guy, you have to do things different in proportion to the degree that you're smaller. The smaller I am, the more different I have to be. Because if I do what the big guys do and just spend less money, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
So, we're about to do an ad campaign, which I think is going to be incredibly provocative. And I think raise some eyebrows, maybe not this eyebrow, but a plus eyebrow. And we're going to launch that probably in about a month. And I think that's going to be different and ownable and relevant. And that's what you need.
So
Yes.
what advice can you give other startups who are, kind of in your spot right now? I mean, what experiences can you share with them, for example,
Sure.
that they could benefit from?
Sure. I think that, the one thing that Kim was saying before I really liked is listening to your gut. Your gut isn't mystical. It's the sum total of every experience you've ever had in your life that's spitting out into your ear and saying, well, the evidence says. When you were talking about the man doing your website, that's all your experience in your life telling you he's the right guy.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go against that, more often than not, you're going to be wrong. Every bad employee decision I've made in my career, on paper, the person was great. My instinct said no. I went with the paper, and the paper was always wrong. Instincts are always right. So I say definitely that, because also everyone's trying to give you a point of view, like you were saying before, Kim, and they don't necessarily have expertise. They might not be right, and they might not be even having the best intentions. I would say when you go in, know it's going to cost. It's like building a house. It's going to cost you twice as much and take twice as long and cost twice as many headaches. It is not an easy thing. And you have to ask yourself, do I have the energy to do this every day, 12 hours a day, to do it while I'm on vacation and really love doing it? And if you don't take a job, get the paycheck. It's a lot easier. But I'm not going to leave. It was funny, after we sold Bliss, I was fortunate to be in 2 exits. I was up, I did very well with that. I was offered a couple of jobs, and I said, I'm not going to leave this planet as the CEO of, this sneaker company or whatever. I got to do my own thing. Succeed or fail, I need to do my own thing. I get such joy from creating, like you were saying before, Kim, the joy of creating and building and trying things out. I'm loving it, and there's nothing I'd rather do. And my daughter works with me, so that is a blessing, and that's been great.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just having the best time, and we just want to change the world. That's all.
Yeah, why not? I do have, I agree with you, because when you're working in a big company, you do have, at least you may have a marketing department with experienced people, or you may have a finance department with, experienced people. And when you're a small business person, you don't have those things. So you have to, find ways for that work to get done. And you do have to trust your intuition, because it's a new product, it's a new experience. And there are people that have gone before, but really you're out there on your own, and it is intuitive. You don't have time to take customer surveys and do focus groups and all of that kind of stuff that other companies do to mitigate the risk of a new product launch. So you have to really rely on your intuition and gut for a long time.
Yeah, if I could only tell you all the grief we got for starting Passage to Profit from people in the entrepreneurial community. They were like, what are you guys doing? Spend your marketing money somewhere else. You're crazy. That was 4 years ago, and now everybody has a podcast, right?
Right.
So we took a leap of faith.
I'll give you a perfect example. When I first was pitching this to the big retailers, they all said, love the product, love the name, but this refill thing, I don't know about refills. It's like people aren't ready for refills. I said, well, they're not going to be ready if you don't carry it. Help lead change. You know the answer. Yeah. If you use my packaging, you'll save 66% of your own freight costs and 66% of your warehouse costs. So it's going to help you. It's going to help your customer. Refills will never happen. 3 years later, all of a sudden, all these brands are starting to do refills. And refills are now 40% of my business. So if I listen to them, I would have been just another, well, not another, it would be a great natural product in a regular jar. And thank God I stuck to my guns. I, again, stuck to my instincts.
Know, like, and trust yourself. That's what I learned,
Exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
so that's it. So we're going to have to take a break, but we'll be back with more Passage to Profit right after this. And Mike, really fascinating story, awesome product, and we'll be back with more right after this.
Well, welcome back, listeners, to
It's good to be back.
3, 2, 1. Welcome back, listeners, to Passage to Profit, the road to entrepreneurship with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart.
And it's good to be back.
Yes, it is very good to be back. So we still have a little bit of the show to go. If you missed what we've talked about up to here, wow. I mean, this was like just an incredible show. You can find it on our podcast tomorrow. You can also see what we were talking about on our YouTube channel, Passage to Profit Show. But now we are to the part of the show where we do a little bit of personalization. So we have a question that we ask everybody, and we kind of do a roundtable discussion with it just for fun.
Yeah, it's a secret question. Our audience doesn't know it before we ask it.
So what is the secret question?
I forget.
What is the last concert that you saw, and was it any good, and why?
Okay.
Okay. So should we start with Kim?
Now I remember. Yeah.
Sure. Yes. The last concert that I saw was Jim Brickman, and it was probably like 2 or 3 weeks before COVID hit. So we were, it was one of those things that you look back on and you say to yourself, I'm really glad we went. I'm glad we went out as much as we could, because we didn't know we wouldn't be able to go out. But I have loved his music for, I don't even know, decades. And he was local. He came to my hometown, which is right outside of Boston, and he played in a small venue. So we're at the table and chairs and whatnot. And he was wildly entertaining, really interesting guy, and obviously a wonderful musician. So I thoroughly enjoyed that concert.
Awesome.
So do you mind if I ask, who is Jim Brickman?
He's a pianist.
And what kind of piano
So
music does he play?
It's like love, calming, quiet.
So sort of chill.
Sort of like George
chill.
Winston.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Nice.
I'll have to check him out on YouTube. If you like him, I'll check it out.
I love piano music.
I do too. I do too.
So Kenya, have you gone to a concert lately?
Well, I have the same scenario as Kim. So right before the pandemic, I think it was like maybe 3-4 weeks, I saw it was Wu-Tang Clan at Radio City Music Hall. I've never seen them before. I've always wanted to see them. And I brought my son. And one of the things that I was intentional about was that I wanted to meet RZA, who is the most important member of the Wu-Tang Clan, because he created the whole group. He's been the real entrepreneurial brain behind the brand, and just, having them blow up. And we got to meet him. Not only did I get to meet him, he promised me an interview one of these days. So I have that card in my back pocket, but I went there being very intentional that I'd wanted to see more than just a concert. I wanted to make sure that I met him. So
did you do that through connections, or did you just wait?
No, it was stalking.
You were stalking. Okay. Celebrity stalking.
My son, it was interesting though, because we were kind of stalking. We met somebody who was kind of hanging out like backstage, who was able to get us up to their dressing room. And it was just like, kind of not the place you want to hang out with your son, right?
At least I knew you weren't a groupie. You're there, right?
Did they have LSD and ecstasy? That's what I
don't know what they were doing up there, but
patents,
the thing is, they probably thought my son was like my bodyguard or something. So he's kind of good to have around, right? So we kind of hung around, we stood around, and like it was cool because all the other members came in, and so this really nice guy who was their security guard was standing at the door. I said, "Listen, sir, I work for the radio station. I don't know if that means anything, but I'd really like to meet RZA." And he said, stand over there. So I stood over there for about maybe 30 minutes, and he kept his word. He opened up the dressing room. He let me and my son go in. We had to wait a little while to talk to him. We met some other members of the group, and it was surreal to just be standing there. But super nice guy, and no connections, just God's favor, and it got us in the door. So
intuition at work.
I was going to say, Mike, you were going to say something?
No, I'm blown away. You saw Wu-Tang Clan.
Right? It's like,
yeah. So who did
crazy.
you see, Mike?
Well, if DJs count, I saw Mayan Warrior about 2 weeks ago at Brooklyn Navy Yard. And that's like, I think it comes from Burning Man. It's just a whole bunch of DJs. Talk about MDMA. I mean, it's just, the whole place is insane.
I can imagine.
When it comes to bands, I played a band in November, so that doesn't count. But before that,
wait. What did you just say?
Yeah, I had a band that we put together for Women's Wear Daily for the CEO Summit. And so they have this CEO Summit, it's a meeting of all the CEOs in beauty every year. And I put a band together.
This man has many talents.
Yeah.
The former editor was Pete Bourne. He had this big white mustache. So I called the band Pete Bourne's Mustache. And we did some Foo Fighters and some Stevie Wonder and a whole bunch of other stuff. It was a lot of fun. And we did Parliamentary Funk, and that was a lot of fun. But before that was LCD Sound System. And coincidentally enough, I'm actually about to buy plane tickets to see LCD Sound System play in Oakland and then in San Francisco, because they put on an awesome show, and it's so much fun.
So you're following a band around, huh?
I've never
like a deadhead.
I haven't done that since my college years following Frank Zappa around. So LCD I've seen them 7 times, including once in Paris, and this is probably the best show. Good natured, fun, great music. Yeah.
Awesome.
Wow. Well, those are tough acts to follow. If you'll pardon the pun. Oh my gosh.
So what concert have you seen lately? I think I know the answer to this.
Well, we saw Bare Naked Ladies, Jim Blossoms, and Toad the Wet Sprocket in Central Park a couple weeks ago.
Summer Stage.
And
that's cool.
It was
so fun.
Very small, intimate, maybe 500 people, 750. Perfect weather.
It was awesome.
And they're still singing, well. I actually happen to be kind of a Jim Blossoms fan, so I was really looking forward to seeing them. But Bare Naked Ladies was great too.
And so was Toad the Wet Sprocket. I mean, I really enjoyed
they
the
were
whole
really
thing.
tight. They played, Jim Blossoms were a little on the sloppy side, but Toad the Wet Sprocket and Bare Naked, they were good.
I could see Mike has to say something.
Yeah.
No, I'm just surprised I didn't hear about it. I would have seen that in a second. So,
yeah. It was on Summer Stage. We haven't really seen anything else we want to see on Summer Stage. We are going to Elton John. So this is going to be mine. I'm pre-doing it. We're going to Elton John at the Meadowlands at Giant Stadium in a couple of weeks, like a week and a half.
Right.
Which will be a different experience because it's like this huge stadium, but Elton John always puts on an amazing show. I haven't seen him before. This is last chance. So
right. And this is supposedly his last concert. He's 75. So
I'm pretty excited about that one.
He's amazing in concert. You'll love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Great. So, well, I think we're running short on time here.
Okay. Should I go through the websites?
I would love it if you did.
So our guest today was Kim Woods, Intuitive Business Strategist, healer, Oracle. She has done amazing things to help people tap into their inner power, their strength of intuition, and just blow their businesses out of the water. So
I think this is an often neglected factor in leadership, and I'm glad she's bringing it out for all of us to examine.
Me too. So her website is Kim Woods, like spelled exactly like you expect, KIMWOODS.com. Look her up. I think she's taking clients now. So if you want to take it to the next level, talk to Kim. And then, of course, we had Kenya, our media maven, talk about Power Move. And then we had Mike Indursky with Hear Me Raw. And it's hearmeraw.com. And he's just doing amazing things in the beauty industry.
I think he's got a very inspiring approach. And I really think that his products are just going to take the world by storm. So,
well, heal the world.
And heal the world.
Save animals.
And save animals.
I love his comment
and improve
about
skin all at the same time. So,
I love his comment about
trifecta.
We shouldn't have to kill an animal or take their body parts to make makeup.
That is so right.
That is so right. So
anyway, we have to go now. We have to sign off for this week, but we'll return to this station next week with another episode of Passage to Profit. And before we go, I'd like to thank our producer, Noah Fleischman, and our program coordinator, Alicia Morrissey, and our syndication manager, Mark Wilson. And our podcast can be found tomorrow anywhere where you find your podcast. And remember, while we believe that the information in this show is correct. Always check with your legal professional before you take a legal
if you
step.
want legal advice.
That's
so
right.
This has been Passage to Profit, the road to entrepreneurship with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. See you next week.